the main concept of this course is that we have a lot of guest lecturers that will cover important topics that are important for the understanding of current state of things. This course consists of 12 weeks and 3 modules, so 4 weeks for each module. Well, basically, these are the guys that we already have for this iteration of the course. But actually, everyone who holds their DLT certificate will be actually invited to the new speakers that will take place in other cohorts and iterations of the certification. Because, well, the main philosophy behind this certification is actually to keep everyone who holds the DLT certificate updated about current state of the industry. That's why we will have maybe new speakers on every iterations, but they will always be presenting during live seminars and will be sharing the current experience, which will be up to date to the date when the event take place. So if you hold the certification, you are invited to all the live lectures that will happen also after your iterations, your 12 weeks, that will be base of your qualification. Because not enough just to have a qualification which gets you a slice of the industry during one particular year, 2019, because in 2 years, there will be a lot of changes. And Greg Klumov is CEO and founder of Stasis, which is stablecoin. So he has created a company that introduced a cryptocurrency that is one-to-one pegged to euro. And basically, they are offering different services for their customers based on this technology. So he is really good in regulation matters, in fintech matters, and he will also share his experience about what it takes actually to start a company in this domain. Then we have Massimo Marini, head of interest rate and credit models, Banca IMI. So Massimo has banking experience, and his proficiency with using of smart contracts in the processes of bank risk departments. So if you heard about how risk is being managed inside banks, so they use different metrics like credit valuation adjustment, risk metrics, XVA, FVA, and so on. So he has experience of using smart contracts actually to streamline the process and make it more efficient. Then Amrit Kumar is co-founder and head of research at Zilliqa. Zilliqa is another smart contract platform similar to Ethereum, but they have one very serious advantage. They have introduced sharding earlier than Ethereum. They have gone live like 2 months ago, and so they are part of this blockchain 3.0 generation. So Amrit is a very technology savvy expert, and he knows a lot about what are the most promising platforms on blockchain out there, how they work, and how you can use them to build different use cases. Because if you have whatever your goal would be to build a product, a company, for example, to invest in something, you will research different sectors in this domain, and different platforms are fit for different purposes. So this will be focus of his guest lecture. Then we have On Yavin, his founder at Cointelligence. You probably heard about this resource. They do due diligence on ICO projects, on initial coin offering projects, and they have a really good framework of assessing different projects on the how scammy they are or how useful they are. Should they be considered as an investment? and stuff like that. So they're doing due diligence in the cryptocurrency space. And also Onyavin has experience in being a serial entrepreneur and angel investor. So he has been a mentor to different startups. So I think his experience really valuable. And then we have, I'm sorry, and then we have a few lawyers and a few enterprise-grade platforms representatives. So Juris Barbosa is principal developer advocate at Oracle. So Oracle, they have their own cryptocurrency startup incubator. And they offer services for the companies that build on blockchain because they're a big IT consulting and IT services provider. So they have a lot of services for people and companies who want to build on blockchain. And he will be talking about what is that they have and how you can use it, how you can try from it, and what is Oracle experience in with blockchain. And then we will have a representative from R3. R3 is a big banking consortium which researches into the distributed ledger technology, how it can be used actually to automate banking back office, and how it can be used to well, actually to update the financial system. It's one of the biggest banking consortiums out there. And they also have different programs for companies and people who are building on top of different, well, basically they have their own blockchain technology, which is called Corda. So they will tell about it and the experience with it. And also we have a few lawyers from different jurisdictions. For example, we have Ali Riza Saidat, who is a lawyer from Germany, and he has experience of issuing security token offerings in Germany, and he can compare legal frameworks in UK, in European Union, in some other jurisdictions from the point of view of issuing the charge comes from for different countries. And so on. So, as the list is quite long, I will be able probably to send a follow-up mail after this webinar with, main links and main ideas that I'm talking about. But I think you got the idea. We can compare market capitalization of different asset classes to actually understand how big are these concepts. How big, for example, is gold, all the gold in the world, for example, comparing to the stock market of United States. How big is stock market of United States comparing to, for example, United Kingdom, Japan, China, and Euro area, and so on. But we are talking about cryptocurrencies today. So my take on it is that we should look at the cryptocurrency space, including Bitcoin, including Ethereum, and other cryptocurrencies that exist out there, as a standalone asset class that basically that has just emerged. I started with cryptocurrencies in 2015 from buying a few Bitcoins at the price of a few $100, and it was just a geek internet toy in 2015. No one really cared about this thing, but later in 2017 it started to become mainstream. Every bank now, every financial institution, they create consortiums and create technologies to research into cryptocurrency, into blockchain space, into distributed ledger, build their own cryptocurrencies for distributed projects. So just in 2 or 3 years, all this this new field has grown from just something unclear, something lurking in the internet and familiar only to experts on cryptography, into financial mainstream. Cryptocurrency is a new asset class, and if you ask me, I'm looking at it in that way, and probably most of the regulator bodies in the world shares the same position, because now probably everyone heard about different regulation efforts that have been introduced in UK, in the European Union, in the United States, to regulate cryptocurrency-based projects, and different, for example, securities based on distributed ledgers. So why am I saying that? So because here is another interesting idea that I'd like to show: tech cycles and bubbles. Obviously, blockchain and cryptocurrency isn't the first new technology out there. You know, every technology that probably is familiar to us at the moment was new somewhen, and you know, had its own cycle of adoption and becoming the main trend and becoming major. So this slide illustrates. Sure, yeah, I will share the slides, no worries. So this slide illustrates how different technology familiar to us today were adopted throughout the 20th century. So, well, apart from actually seeing this concept of adoption, you can see that probably the time which is needed to adopt a new technology shortens with time. Yeah. So in the beginning of the 20th century, you can see, you know, telephone, electricity, radio. It took like 30 to 50 years for this technology to become adopted by 100% of United States households. But if you take a look at microwave, cell phone, internet, it only took probably 10 to 20 years to gain adoption by most of the United States households. So with time, you know, this pattern of adopting a new technology, if it has proven itself to be useful and bringing value to households, it tends to become faster. So let's try to apply this understanding to the distributed ledger technology that underpins the cryptocurrencies. Basically, describing how blockchain works is not a subject of this webinar, because, you know, it will take quite a lot of time, and we'll probably do it on another webinar. But what I'm trying to capture today is the understanding how it evolves and where it can lead us. So basically, let's try to map Bitcoin within this framework. So as I mentioned, it was created in 2009. So basically, it's 10 years old now. So blockchain underpins Bitcoin. Bitcoin is cryptocurrency on top of blockchain. And the main property of it is that it's not governed by any entity in the world. And no government, no regulatory body isn't responsible actually for maintaining it, for minting, for regulating. It's global by its nature. So it's a basic value that it brings into the world, and that's why it's being used. There's a lot of different other use cases that it covers, but let's stick with this one at the moment. So let's put the cryptocurrency aside and focus on the underlying blockchain technology, distributed ledger. So blockchain it's a more, you know, everyday word. More professional is distributed ledger technology. So it's like a database that is distributed across the internet. So basically what we are talking about when we are talking about distributed ledgers and blockchains, we are talking about actually changing the nature of internet. Because the internet that we see on this slide is actually internet of information. The main property, if you like, is actually transferring information freely and copying information freely without borders. But copying information means that if you have a file with an information, you can, for free, create a copy of this file and send it somewhere. So you have two files which are pretty much similar and and spread across the network. So with blockchain, we can transfer not only information, but value as well. But what do I mean when I say value? If we are talking about something that has an object, material object that has value, like a car, for example, or a stock in the company, you can't copy a stock in the company. For example, you own a stock in the IBM stock or Apple stock. It can be copied, because if you can copy a stock, copy and paste and send this copy somewhere else, then it loses its value. But with blockchain, you can create a digital entity that lives on blockchain that is immutable and can be copied. For example, you can create a stock that is issued and lives in the blockchain, like in the digital space. So this is the advantage of blockchain. It enables the concept of Internet of Value. So we move from Internet of Information to Internet of Value. What's main advantage of bringing the asset to the digital world? So the advantage is actually being able for the whole world to be able to buy or sell this asset. For example, if I'm based in UK and I'm selling a stock on the London Stock Exchange, this stock is probably entitled to investors accredited to London Stock Exchange. But if, for example, I want to buy Bitcoin on decentralized exchange, then I can be anywhere in the world. I can be in Russia, I can be in Venezuela, in the United States, in China, whatever. And I don't even care about my government, about their policy, about their currency regime, about the exchange rate. I'm just part of this global economy. So this is the point. You get the advantages of global financial markets. So the second question is, do you think there will be another bubble burst that will wipe out most of the cryptos in the market today? Some of the crypto projects out there are very questionable. Yeah. So, well, there's a few thousand cryptocurrency projects, if you count the projects itself. But I would think about all this phenomena, it's like transition from legacy systems, from the way how banks and financial systems work and operate and being operated and being regulated at the moment, to a new, more global and so more liquid and more efficient technological way. The webinar, and I'd like to review what are different educational resources are there available for people who are interested in cryptocurrencies and distributed ledgers. So of course, there are two options: free educational resources, and there's quite good actually out there, and paid certification and programs. So let's try to understand what's the difference between them. So I'll start from the simpler things. So there's 3 books that I would like to recommend. The first one is the book on Bitcoin. You can buy it, of course, but it's also available for free, and it's published in 2017 by Andreas Antonopoulos. He is a known enthusiast of cryptocurrency and researcher of distributed ledgers. So basically, it covers all possible aspects of how Bitcoin works. Basically, what is Bitcoin blockchain, how it was created, what different, how it works, how mining works. So basically everything you want to know about Bitcoin. It's not very technical, and the chapters that get very technical usually written in a way that you can pass away very technical parts without actually missing and still understand how it works. So this is the first book, and it's free. Probably the best book on Bitcoin itself. Second book is surprisingly from the same author, and It's about Ethereum. So Andreas Antonopoulos wrote a book about Ethereum, describing actually how it's different from Bitcoin, what are smart contracts and how they work, and answering one of the previous questions, how they can be used to create digital assets. Of course, you probably, if you research into what is there about educational, then there is Coursera with its peanuts courses. So it's fairly small courses, quite cheap, like $50 to $100, covering different topics. Explain what is Bitcoin, what is blockchain. They are not particularly useful given that we have 2 books on Bitcoin and Ethereum. But if you prefer video, then it can be your choice. One of the best, from my point of view, is Bitcoin and Cryptocurrency Technologies from a known enthusiast in cryptosphere, Arvind Narayan, who is also known as Random Walker. And actually, he wrote a book as well, which is available for free as well. It's called Bitcoin and Cryptocurrency Technologies, and pretty much covers same topics that are covered on those 2 books in Bitcoin and Ethereum. But from my point of view, it's he's better writer and writes more, more interesting texts that are more comprehensive, at least to me. Okay, so of course I have read all those books because it's my job. But then what you have is there is Oxford Blockchain Strategy Program. Well, it's quite expensive because it's Oxford, but it's 6 weeks when you will be taught not only the technical parts of all this cryptocurrency stuff, but also some interesting ideas about legal aspects, how is this stuff is being regulated, and how you should research about if you are looking to invest into cryptocurrencies. But it's more than £2,000 for 6 weeks. Basically, well, I'm as a professional, in cryptocurrency. I usually work with different companies. Some of them are pure cryptocurrency companies. Some of them are companies that are looking to employ distributed ledger into their existing business models. What I feel from my day-to-day work is that there's not enough understanding and educational resources that go deep enough for people who work in the industry be able to actually work in the companies that are look to build, for example, projects or products based on the distributed ledgers. And I did research into what is happening in the educational space in cryptocurrency, and thought that it requires a little bit of innovation. So what I mean by it is basically the cryptocurrency space, it's very dynamic. It changes rapidly. You have a new iteration of technology every year. If you are talking about legislation, about regulatory bodies and new laws that introduced that regulate, for example, digital assets in different jurisdictions, UK, European Union, or United States, it changes even faster. Every 3 months, there's new frameworks, new laws, new important things that you need to know if you work in this space or you are doing some professional activity. For example, if you invest in more than $500 or building a project and working in a bank and building, for example, I don't know, some kind of distributed ledger-based project or product. So I decided to build a certification, a course, learning course, that is live. Most of the courses out there, it's either books that have been printed like a year or 2 years ago, or it's recorded video course that usually have been recorded, some time ago. So I have decided to go another way, and invite some real-life practitioners from the industry and ask them to cover those topics they are proficient in during a live seminar. So, because if you taken a course, for example, now 2019 during summer, you want to know the recent developments in this sphere. You want to know the freshest legislation initiatives and use cases that are being developed right now, not half a year ago, not from the last year or even older. So the main concept of this course is that we have a lot of guest lecturers that will cover important topics that are important for the understanding of current state of things. This course consists of 12 weeks and 3 modules, so 4 weeks for each module. Well, basically, these are the guys that we already have for this iteration of the course. But actually, everyone who holds their DLT certificate will be actually invited to the new speakers that will take place in other cohorts and iterations of the certification. Because, well, the main philosophy behind this certification is actually to keep everyone who holds the DLT certificate updated about current state of the industry. That's why we will have maybe new speakers on every iterations, but they will always be presenting during live seminars and will be sharing the current experience, which will be up to date to the date when they event take place. So if you hold the certification, you are invited to all the live lectures that will happen also after your iterations, your 12 weeks, as that will be base of your qualification. Because not enough just to have a qualification which gets you a slice of the industry during one particular year, 2019, because in a year, in 2 years, there will be a lot of changes and everyone needs to be up to date. That's why I created this course. I want to create like a community that keeps itself updated on the permanent basis.